Welcome to the Speak to Influence podcast. I'm Karen Sachs, and I have a question for you. Have you ever had a conversation with someone, and after you walked away, you thought, I didn't understand a word they said? Particularly if that person has a lot of expertise in a topic. That can be challenging because the irony is the more you know about a topic, sometimes the harder it is for you to explain it. Today, we're going to talk about the psychology of clarity and why being easy to understand is a competitive advantage, particularly in the AI era. Now, let's talk about physiology before we get into psychology. Our brains were created to conserve energy. And so when they become overwhelmed, they're inclined to disengage. Hey, Robert, thank you for coming today live. And once the brain has disengaged, you can do things like miss details, remember less, make incorrect assumptions, or just lose interest in the conversation. And when that happens, confused people don't take action. So it's important that you not confuse people, make life more complicated. Psychologists call this the curse of knowledge. It's difficult to remember a time when you didn't know what you know. Now, the curse of knowledge is particularly challenging with specialized groups like engineers, doctors, lawyers, accountants, tech people. They, in particular, have a tendency to speak a little deeper in the conversation because expertise is knowing something deeply, but communication is making it understandable. And so often they're concerned that if they make it simple, they'll appear to be less intelligent. And nothing could be farther from the truth. Research shows that when somebody makes things simple to understand, they're viewed as more competent, better leaders, better teachers, and more trustworthy. Now, what happens with the curse of knowledge? Well, the expert has a tendency to take one of two directions. The first direction is that they assume that you know nothing. So they go over every excruciating detail that there is. They over explain everything. And at that point, your brain gets overwhelmed and checks out. The other approach they take is assuming that you are a peer and that you know the same things that they know. And when that's the case, then they have a tendency to miss steps, use jargon, and talk to you in a far more complex way than you can understand because you don't know what they know. That can cause problems in communication. What clear communicators do is focus on just one thing at a time when they talk. I call it point first communication. You talk about your main point, you give a brief explanation, you talk about next steps, and then you close your mouth. That's point first communication. And great communicators have a tendency to use that because it's very effective. The other thing they do is they use everyday language. They make sure that they don't use jargon and they don't use complex words. We're not dumbing it down for people, we're simplifying it. That makes it easier for everyone involved to understand. The next thing is that they give one idea at a time. Sometimes someone who is an expert in something will start a conversation and then they bounce back to the step before what they were just talking about. And then they bounce back to where they were, or then they may jump ahead too far. And that is way too complicated. You want to focus on just one thing at a time. Each sentence should contain one concept, not multiples. The other thing they do is they give real examples. People have stories that are far more memorable than just taking off an example of something that you're talking about. So take advantage of that. If you know stories, tell the stories. And finally, they check for understanding. They ask compelling questions. Instead of asking, do you understand what I mean? They'll ask, do you have any questions? Do you understand what I mean? Really put someone on the spot. Because if they don't understand what you mean, then they really don't want to embarrass themselves and say, no, I don't. However, if you invite them to ask any questions that you have, they are far more inclined to explain it in detail. And that may help you understand what they were talking about. Hey, Monique, welcome to the live. I appreciate it. Now, what if you are an English as a second language professional? Oftentimes, they assume that their accent is the problem when they communicate. And while clearer pronunciation may certainly be helpful, the truth is it's usually the structure. It's usually not doing point first communication. It's usually including too many concepts in one sentence. And if you add jargon and complex language to it, you're making it even more complicated. So your accent is probably not the major problem. Your sentence organization is. And we are in the AI era. And in the AI era, it is much more challenging for human communication. AI can build your emails, your presentations, your articles, but what they can't do is something that only a person can do. They need to explain ideas in a way that builds trust and inspires action. Only a person can do that. And the person who can do that in the future is the person who is highly coveted and has a competitive advantage in the AI era. So the next time you talk, you want to ask yourself a question, especially if it's a long conversation. Ask yourself, can a 12-year-old understand this? What's the simplest way for me to explain it? Because if a 12-year-old can understand it, then your peers and your clients will probably be able to understand it too. You need to make it simple, not dumb it down, make it simple. So I appreciate you coming to the live today. If you want daily tips like this and a free weekly masterclass every Wednesday at 12 noon Eastern Daylight Time, you are welcome to join my free school community. To do that, go to skool.com and look for Act Like a Great Communicator. That's skool.com. Act like a great communicator. Until then, remember that the future belongs to the people who explain complex ideas simply. And that is something that I know you can do. Have a great week, everyone.